Oh, hello. Do you think that Big Brother's watching? Or that the Illuminati is planning to take over the world? Have you happened to have an encounter with a space alien today? Well, if the answer to those questions is yes, then grab your hat. This is tinfoil hat time. Greetings and welcome back to Switched to Linux. We are going to have that difficult, crazy, controversial, probably demonetizing conversation today about firearms. Because, there are some weird conspiracies around it. I'm going to debunk some of those, and we're going to address questions on others, and I'm simply going to use this as the place to say this is my opinion on the subject matter. And possibly the kitty's opinion, too. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and talk about the firearm discussion and things like that. So I'm just going to call this person Enigma because I just cannot read that. And anyway, but yes, first, Enigma is first. Kelmer, greetings. Harold Cruz, hello there. Keegan the Tennessean, hello there. Farron, OS developer who had to leave. See ya, man. Yeah, I started the hour I have to go to bed. Bummer. It's a Saturday. I guess if you got to get up for early for church, then that's okay. Pizza loving nerd. Pizza. Greetings, sir. Emery, hello there. Also, does Mint Y work on Mint Budgie? What do you mean Mint Y? Like the theming stuff? No, all of the theming stuff is Budgie related that I know of. I'll have to look though. I'll have to look. But I am running Mint Budgie right now, so I'll have a look if I remember when I'm done here. Greetings, Hacker by Power HBP and Striker Wolf. Hello there. Intro makes you chuckle. Yeah, I was thinking about redoing the intro at some point in time. Gonna match the better theming that I'm doing now. I like it better with the green screens and things like that because I can do neat and trippy and scary stuff behind me. So that's good. All right, let's see. Let's see. Hello, France. How are you, Nero boy? I love my guns. I will never surrender them. My dad is going to kill me if you say anything that... where'd your comment go? If you say anything he doesn't like, Lusky is taking a really long crap. Well, I don't know what viewpoint he takes on the matter, but let's just open a conversation and a dialogue. I think that's what most people are asking for. But for sure, leave questions up there. If I start seeing weird stuff on your account, then I'll know he's stolen your keyboard. But anyway, let's see. Tug Farron. Okay, I will try and remember that. Tag Farron, I guess. Grant, hello, Q1 Fiend, greetings. Suggesting you ever heard your cat talk English to you in the intro. Ooh, kitty, have you talked English? Now, I was thinking about making it much creepier looking. Anyway, let's see. They may make you jealous. I just ate pizza, delicious pizza at a weird place called Mellow Mushroom. Mint Y is the future of Linux, Mint GTKY. You know what? You're still on, Farron. Let me go ahead, since you need to leave soon, let me go ahead and pull up my Budgie stuff because I am running Budgie right now. And I will let you know. Let's see. Style. Mint Y. Yes, actually, Mint Y does work on Budgie. It's not my preference for this computer, but yes, it does indeed work. So the answer to your question is yes. All right. All right. Okay. Mint Y, future Mint GTK. Okay, that's I can deal with that. I like the Mint Y darker one, but I can deal with that. Does Mint Budgie has notification center? I believe it does because I think that's actually something. I think notifications are built into. But oh yeah, actually, duh, I know it does. Yes, because Budgie manages its notifications on the Raven menu, and so yes, it does. He is left wing. Okay. Any thoughts about Debian Mint Base? I have not used it. Okay. Cut here. Well, I will be absolutely happy to answer Cut here's questions or allow a stirred up debate. That is okay. Spider Eyes, greetings. Dean Myers, home from church. It is Saturday, the Sabbath. Yes, is indeed. However, let me leave this one working on something I'm working at. All right. Cool. Okay, if you outlaw guns, only outlaws will have guns. That is where I agree, Grant. Tipping my hand, yes. Criminals don't care about laws. Only law-abiding people care about laws. And if you make it harder for law-abiding people to get a firearm, then more criminals will have them and fewer law-abiding people will have them. That is a fact. Had to deal with this last tinfoil hat time. Well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. For Pizza Lovin' Nerd's dad, I am not a conspiracy theorist. I kind of make fun of them, really, is kind of what this show is for. But there are a lot of things that get perilously close to interesting that are worthy of very honest and very upfront conversations, and that is the purpose of this. All right. See you later, Farron. Make Shane Dawson style conspiracy theory videos. I would have to watch some Shane Dawson conspiracy theory videos to do that. Firearm regulation in the U.S. is a very interesting, intriguing topic to see from Europe, particularly from France, yes. If I'm not mistaken, I believe France actually has a higher per capita mass murdering than United States. Is that correct? A lot of people say United States has more gun deaths, and it doesn't. It's actually pretty low on the list. Norway, I think, is the number one. France, yeah, actually, number 3 is France, 0.347. So we'll kind of talk about that. All right. Let's see. Glad to see American discussed about that in France. More than 90% of the population is against weapons. We even discussed to not arm part of the police. Left wing, I am left wing too, even though I know the different opinions of left wingers and firearms. All right, cool. Okay, nice. I guess that's good information for anyone who wants to make Linux Mint Budgie Respan. Yes. All right. Greetings, Minimal Design. Pizza loving nerd, Cub Linux will rise from the ashes. Phoenix Linux, nice. Spuddy Sylvia, greetings. You brought your space aliens to your live event. Yes, I did. The space aliens are at the live event. And if you want to know why you cannot see a space alien on Mars, it's because they have very good camouflage and they blend in very, very well. That's why you can't see space aliens on Mars. Okay. They blend in very nicely with their surroundings. Absolutely. Let's see. Was able to turn off Secure Boot, install Mint Cinnamon. Awesome. Very good. I guess it's obvious given Mint Y is ARC-based, although the real question, does Mint X work on Budgie? I don't know. I'll have to look into that a little bit. Screw gun regulations. All right. Nero Boy has a lot of United States about the same amount of gun control as France. There's a few. Yeah, there's a few states that are pretty crazy. They're hovering over his house, bouncing video signal off the PF sensor router. Yes, they are. They were bouncing it off of my head, and then I put on the hat, and they had to bounce it off the router instead. Greetings, India. How are you? Have an hour, then I gotta go sleep. Didn't sleep today yet. All right. Heard a lady once say criminals do what they do because they're uneducated, i.e. criminals shoot up the gun-free zone because they can't read signs. Oh dear me. This is a gun-free zone. I have to go put the gun back. Yeah. I would not complain if new regulations allow other means of self-defense. Okay. Anthony, greetings. No, we have a low rate is increasing recently. Okay. I need to get more details about the stats that I have here. Governments, okay, by the way, governments have the people register their guns, they can confiscate them. That is one of the prevailing theories, is that registration leads to confiscation. I think that seems to have happened before. Germany comes to mind. You're going to live stream again this week. This will be the last live stream until probably Wednesday. We cannot throw a thief from our home using a stick or a broom, to give an example. Yeah, if a thief comes into my home, he's going to be leaving in a body bag. I custom make my 9mm rounds. I use shotgun powder in mine. How do unarmed police handle issues such as terror attacks in France? Yeah, run the other way like everyone else. And that's the problem with giving the criminals the guns, because they don't care what the gun regulations are. It doesn't make it harder. If you want to know how hard it is to get guns for criminals, figure out how hard it is to keep drugs out of prison. I take a stripped out right protection screw on a Chromebook. Not off the top. You know you are a Linux user when you are the family's tech support. Yep. PA has the castle doctrine. It's a good thing. Yes, it is. A friend of mine in California, he couldn't legally shoot somebody in the house unless that person attacked him first with a lethal weapon. Like, huh? Dude, he's in the house at 3 a.m. What do you expect he's there to do? Come, they are always having government drills exactly like the incidents, the same day or previously. That is a very interesting question, Chris Goliath. And before you, if you think that that's too tied into conspiracy theory, that happens more than you know. Funny, shocking thing. We have a drill. What do you do with mass shooting? And then the next day, a mass shooter shows up. Huh? I'm going to debunk some of the conspiracy theories surrounding that. At least I'll argue about those. Are you going to live stream this Wednesday? Yes, I will be live streaming Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern time. All right, I'm going to leave the comments right there and kind of start getting into some of my talking points. So first and foremost, the study of violence, particularly violence in schools and school shootings, is particularly something of interest to me because in my town, there was a school shooting. My best friend's town, who was one school district away from me, they had a firearm-related suicide in the school. And so, you know, I kind of know a lot about these. And it turns out that the National Research Council did an entire book called Deadly Lessons, which is Understanding Lethal Violence in the Schools. Of course, this led to what was called the Intermittent Explosive Disorder, IED. And one of the things, so this is done by the National Research Council, and as they're reading through all of these stories, and where I actually learned about this book is that the shooting that happened in my town is in this book, where I graduated high school, and it's fascinating to see that. But of all of the things in here, and this was the prevailing thing when this book was written about 10, 15 years ago, nobody was blaming the guns, okay? And it begs that question because, you know, when in the Boston bombing, which I followed that closely, no one blamed the bomb. No one blamed the pressure cooker or the nails or the fertilizer. Someone goes on a stabbing spree, you don't blame the knife. You blame the killer. Now, sometimes you blame the guns, or we blame the video games, or we blame the movies, or we blame a lot of other things, but the last thing we want to blame is the guy. The funny thing about it is that in this book, Deadly Lessons, which I have read most of it, and what they identify is that the problem we have is with messed up people. If you were to pull the guns away from the messed up people, they do other things. And it's not AR-15s either, because the Columbine shooting, which was one of the worst ones, did not use AR-15s. They did use improvised explosives, bombs, and they did use shotguns and some handguns. Prior to the Sandy Hook, the most, in fact, I forget all my numbers are at the top, but the Virginia Tech massacre was one of the highest handgun. All right. And so a lot of people are trying to blame assault rifles. A lot of people are trying to blame a lot of other things. Now, of course, this raised some controversy in 2013 when Joe Biden is taking a call, and Joe Biden very clearly knows nothing about firearms or firearm safety for that matter. He tells this little lady, you know, go get a shotgun, and then you just go out to the porch and you fire a couple shots up into the air, and then that guy will leave you alone. No. Let me tell you, there's three major things wrong. Number one, if you've ever fired a shotgun, it is not an easy gun to handle. Okay? Number two, you never, ever, ever fire a shot in the air. I know that's what they do in the movies, scare people off. No. Because guess what? What goes up must come down. You know where that bullets come down? Yep. You never just randomly fire a shot up in the air. Right? And you don't give a person trying to defend themselves a double barrel shotgun, which only has 2 rounds, and then go tell them to fire 2 shots up in the air. Because now in the time it takes you to reload the thing, you're killed. So that's not exactly the way around it either. There are a few different things for self-defense. I personally prefer the handgun. I have 2 handguns. I use those for self-defense. Those are the best options. Now, if you want something a little larger, AR's not bad. I've fired an AR. I've fired, I fired a wide variety of things. The hardest thing I've ever fired, I have a friend with a 300, it's a 300 Remington Ultra Mag. If you're not aware of what that is a sniper rifle that can stop a semi with 1 shot from a mile away. That is one crazy gun. I can fire about 3 bullets from that before my shoulder needs a week's rest. And a shotgun is probably the second most impactful firearm I've ever shot. So a typical lady trying to protect herself with a shotgun isn't going to do a good job. Handguns aren't bad for that. An AR's not bad for that. Or as some type of hunting rifle. So it all boils down, though, that it's not the gun that is the problem. It is the person that is the problem. Now, the breakdown, the failure in the breakdown in the Florida case was a breakdown of the system. There were 20-something calls to the police about this individual. Never once was he flagged for the violence. The school has expelled him for violence. Never once was he flagged for violence. The FBI investigated him for violence threats. No flag about it. This is a guy who, if the laws that were on the books were actually being implemented, used, I don't want to use the word enforced, because they were enforced. The law is, if you go in to buy a gun, you get a background check. I have 2 firearms. I've had 2 background checks on me. 1 background check per firearm. It didn't even matter that I bought the 2 firearms at the same store. It didn't matter. Every time you buy a gun, you gotta have a background check. Okay? The problem was that the police, the FBI, and the school district all failed to report the duty that they did. That led to the guy. Now, if supposing that he was not able to get that, if he still wanted to carry this out, the guy would have found another way. Because us humans are violent people. If you don't think we're violent, check out this series that is starting tomorrow on Outdoor Philosophy. We are talking about the Lucifer Principle, which is a humanistic view into the heart of the violence of mankind. And why are we doing that one? Simply because that's what most people requested when I asked people which book should I do next. More people wanted that. So I'm doing a book on that, and then with the harder, more Christian aspects will be put on the other side. On the Christian channel, I should say. And so that is kind of my initial opening thoughts. And I see there's a ton of comments coming in, so let's go ahead and have a look at what our comments are looking like. All right. Do I support Trump? I don't think... Okay, I think Trump is certainly an unqualified candidate. I voted for Trump because I thought Hillary Clinton would have been worse. I would rather have an inept president who is good at business than a corrupt politician in the president of the country. That's what it boils down to. I probably would have voted for someone else should someone else been on the field. But I voted for Trump, and I don't specifically support what he stands for. I would just rather have a good businessman at this down economy rather than a corrupt politician. And that's, undoubtedly what Hillary was. Do I think he's doing much? No, I don't think he knows what he's doing. Net neutrality. He's clueless on the internet. Gun control. He's clueless about gun control. He's still blaming the video games. And we'll address video games another time. We're not going to address video games here because I want to bring on co-host to discuss video games because he is a young high school student who doesn't play a lot of video games but plays some video games. And so I want to bring him on for some of that. We have a couple retracted messages. Okay, believe it or not, Baltimore police aren't allowed to bring their guns into schools, even in an active shooting. Well, that's dumb. Criminals can just go to the black market to get their guns. Yes, they can. Or they can print them with these amazing 3D printers that are coming out these days. We're not stopping this. The best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And if you don't remember the church shooting that only happened, another month ago, we've had all of these big shootings lately. And this is kind of where the conspiracy theories are starting to come into play. We'll get into that. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to stop right there. And we're just going to go ahead and dive on into that discussion for just a little bit. Whoa, I don't know why I transitioned into that one. I don't want that back. I want that back. There we are. Okay. So the reality on this, let's talk about these conspiracies. There are a couple levels of conspiracies, and I kind of reject all of these guys. One level of conspiracies are the deniers. There are people who believe the Sandy Hook shooting was all fake. Those people need slap silly. Now, once again, it's the same thing in these. Generally, if you find 9/11 truthers, they also are Sandy Hook deniers. A challenge and a problem is, like 9/11, this added fuel to the conspiracy theorists' views. The building was demolished shortly after. That's what led people to believe that conspiracy, one of the many things. And then you hear a few little odd reports about whatever. And I gotta say, I mean, to look at the little peccadillos of tiny little things in the midst of a tragedy is insanity. Because I remember a friend of mine, they were driving down the mountain over here, and, it's a little 15 mile an hour, 20 mile an hour curvy, windy road, and she's going around the curb this way. It's a complete hairpin. Going around the curb, this other guy was driving like 50 miles an hour in the middle of the road and head-on hit them. Had 4 kids in the car, all right? So the one kid ended up with this weird black eye, and nobody could explain the black eye. Like, how'd the kid get a black eye? Oh, I don't know. Nobody knows to this day how this kid got a black eye. We don't know. The reality is, when a collision occurs, and you could see a mass shooting like this as a collision, weird stuff falls all over. We can't isolate the individual little pieces and produce a story as nicely as we can. We were walking down the street and saw us, whatever else. It behaves a different way. There's too many little things to pick it apart. And I think anyone who denies Sandy Hook owes the most heartfelt, sincere apology to the families who lost children in Sandy Hook. That's stupid. Now, there are other conspiracy theorists, particularly surrounding the Sandy Hook, that say that it was orchestrated or paid for or put together by the government. Also among the truthers, they can't figure themselves out. The government's all out to just get us. I'm not sure I believe that one either. I really don't. The other one that seems like this is the Vegas one, because it's like we have no information about that one. I mean, it's just too weird of circumstances. But at the same time, I'm not about to stoop to the level of sit here and go, it was all the government, because I don't care for the government. That's not a good view to have. We need to approach our conversation from a rational point of view. And a rational point of view is that gun violence does exist. What do we do about it? We need some gun laws, and we have some. Okay? The guy in Florida should not have been able to buy those guns. If the laws that are in place were being followed, he would not have had a gun. Now, if he still wanted to orchestrate it, it might have been an explosion. It might have been a stabbing. It might have been who knows what else. Because that is the nature of mankind. Terminator 2, it is in your nature to destroy yourselves. And so we want to debunk the conspiracies and say real people have lost real lives. And one life is bad enough. But again, why are we focusing so much on the gun? Let's focus on the crazy person who had the police called on him a whole lot, investigated by the FBI, and expelled by the school for violent tendencies. That's where your breakdown is. And some schools are better at this, some schools aren't. I was at a discussion last week, and one of the neighboring schools to here, the kids are scared It's this rural community. The nearest police is at least 15 minutes away. I mean, this school is in the middle of nowhere. The sheriff is the only jurisdiction-based police force around, okay? Sheriff and state police, of course. And so the students there are actually scared because there was a kid who was expelled or suspended, I forget which, and a couple days later, for violence, a couple days later, he was seen walking the halls in school. And nobody seemed to care. The students don't seem to care. The teachers don't seem to care. And it's causing some issues. Now, the school in State College here, some cracked out crystal meth high dude tried to get into the elementary school a couple weeks ago, and that caused an immediate response, and armed guards were deployed to all the school doors across all the schools in the district. That's a good response. The students here feel a lot safer. And that is that balance that we got to strike, the balance where you need to have the conversations with the kids and know that you're on their side, but you also have to have the gall to stop giving a kid a 35th second chance. Now, we want to avoid the pendulum swing on the other hand and say anyone who even sounded bad or scary, throw them on a list. We don't want to do that either. There's too many odds and ends. There's too many coins in this. But the issue in Florida was clearly a breakdown in, I'll use the overarching word, the state. It didn't have anything to do with the law. According to the law, the guy would have never gotten that. And that is one of the problems. So we don't need to run around and say, we need more gun control. We need to control the laws we have. Follow those laws. Engage in those laws. Utilize those laws. Let's go ahead and jump back on over to comments. All right, so maybe carrying a gun is a cultural thing. Yes, absolutely. It is indeed a cultural thing. Even within the United States, there's some places where it would be more common, some places it's less. So I lived in a state that had very lax gun laws, and the only crazy psycho we had, he went in and gutted a professor with a commando knife. I mean, and he was taken out by a guy with a crossbow. I mean, yeah. I mean, people find a way. But in that town where you didn't have to have a carry concealed permit, if you lived in the state for 6 months, you had a valid driver's license, you did not have a felony, and you did not have a domestic violence charge, then you were legal to carry conceal a firearm without a permit. And a lot of people carry concealed firearms. Open carry was fairly common. And you'd see a lot of people open carrying guns in the town. You know what? In that entire state, we had one accidental shooting death. Some moronic lady, her dad gave her a gun and didn't give her the training, and she just had this gun loose floating in her purse, and she's digging in her purse one day and it misfires and shoots somebody in the butt. But that wasn't a crazy guy with a gun. That was clearly an uneducated person. We need a little bit of education and common sense. And that is, unfortunately, one of those things is common sense is not very common these days. But regardless, the fact is that in that state where guns were so commonplace, we had no crime. Because you had no idea who was packing heat. I mean, you're not going to be out there starting someone because every other guy on the street's probably carrying. But you go in the middle of Chicago, the gangsters who don't care about the law, they'll shoot you up before thinking twice. That's why crime is so high in Chicago. It's so hard to get guns. Even here in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh and in Philadelphia, you can't carry a gun in the heart of the city. I don't know about Pittsburgh. I know Philadelphia. Crime rates are through the roof. You get out in the backwoods, we don't have a lot of violent crime. Try to do violent crime on some hillbilly's land, you'll be digging lead out of yourself if you're still alive. And that's the thing is, culturally, but even among various cultures, even in Texas, Austin is very anti-gun. The rest of Texas is very pro-gun. So you have that. And I'll point out that church shooting that happened in Texas, it was a guy with an AR-15 that stopped it. Guy with an AR-15 went over and shot the guy shooting people up. And so it's not the gun, it's the person. And that's the thing we need to keep in mind. Same here. We get jail time or a big fine in any case, and the burglar gets released before us. Yeah. Burglar. Oh, that poor burglar. He got shot. You shot him, though. Doesn't make sense. In fact, in that other state, if you had repeated problems with one particular guy, I know 3 different people, 3 different towns in that state. Like, yeah, next time the guy's on your land, shoot him, drag the body in, and then call the police. I mean, quite literally. Because we're not messing with it. You know, the guy's a repeat offender. Just get rid of him. All right. I don't like the registration of any kind. It's invasion of privacy, and I agree. I would not want to live in a state where I have to register my guns, because a registration leads to confiscation, and that happens a lot. We have one school shooting without dead in entire France. Well, that's school shootings. What about mass shootings of any kind? Because according to this study I'm looking at, and I will have to get the exact details and resources, but this is a very modern study looking at the top: Norway number 1, Siberia number 2, France number 3. This is shootings. And this is actually mass shootings. Unless these numbers are reversed, but I don't think it is. United States, 0.087. Now, you also have to understand that this is a death rate, which is a per capita. United States obviously has a whole lot more people than those, and a lot of people who live out in the boondocks. So you have to weigh that into case. But again, these are, cases where people disagree on the stats even. So we have to dig even further before I would fully endorse the stats I'm reading. I'd want to dig further into who compiled the stats, why, what was the funny behind it, all that. But according to this study here, that is kind of the case. Mental health equals no guns, plain and simple. And I like the idea, the concept. The question now is, what is mental health? Because that's the other thing that raises a question. If you've ever gone to see a therapist for, I feel bad about myself right now, let's go see a therapist. Okay, great. Does that bar you from owning a gun for the rest of your life? That's why it's such a hard discussion. Now, a guy who's clearly on the edge, and this is why we need those. It's kind of like the red line laws or something. We need a balance that's more than, oh, you visited a therapist once, but not, we got to give you 50 tries. And so again, I agree. Someone with mental health issues, no guns, plain and simple. I don't disagree. Where I'm going to have a question is, what do you define as mental health? That's a problem. Okay, I heard Trump stated we can pretend school shootings by armed teachers. Is that real? Okay, we can prevent, is what the word. Okay, that's actually another question I kind of want to save for co-host, get his thoughts. But I was actually having a discussion with somebody about this the other day, so I'll just kind of give a Reader's Digest version for now. I think, and this might seem controversial, that the younger the age of the school, the greater this has a chance to work. Because one of the arguments is, what if the kid gets a hold of the gun? 2 scenarios, the kid gets a hold of the gun. Scenario number 1 is the kid accidentally gets a hold of the gun out of curiosity, i.e. a first grader. That would be a tragic situation. But the second scenario of a kid getting a gun is a high school student overpowering a teacher and taking it. And so as the age of the students increases, we have to ask the question more and more and more. Because a younger school, it is definitely up to the teacher to absolutely 100% safeguard that gun. But the first grader, A, is not going to overpower the guy, and B, doesn't really have this burning desire to take that gun. He might want to out of curiosity if he knows it's there, but he wouldn't actually be forcefully trying to take it to do something violent. Whereas the high school student might. And so again, it's a hard question because we're talking about kids from 6 to 18. And that's a huge range. There is no definitive answer. Let's do it. Now, I have an uncle who was a teacher for his whole career. He said, absolutely, let's pack heat because then the students will think twice. So you have a lot of those kind of ideas kind of back and forth. But the reality of the matter is it's still a hard thing. You do have more issues, more challenges. Number one, if the police are responding to a school shooting, and this actually happened the same exact day as the Florida shooting, there was another case where a guy went into a church to attempt a mass shooting. He was shot by another guy first. That guy didn't get any bullets off. The police showed up and they ended up shooting the guy who saved everyone's life. Because when there's multiple people on scene with a gun, everyone's still a suspect. So you have to train the people to know the police are here, throw the guns, put up your hands. You got to have that training. And it's hard training to do. And so having people on campus grounds with guns raises that type of question. Another question is this, because like my church has, we have a policy, we have an active shooter plan, which includes a few people in the congregation who are always packing heat. But with a church the size of ours, in fact, in any church, you don't want a lot of people in there packing guns. Because you don't want 15 people to all stand up and start shooting. Because now you have a spread fire of bullets going everywhere. And that produces a bad situation. We don't necessarily need that. But I think a few key teachers with guns would probably be a good thing. Or at least maybe just a few key security officers with guns would probably be the best option. People that have minimal student contact so the kids have a minimal chance of getting the gun, but have an active presence at the school so the shooters know it. Because an armed guy with a gun protecting the students is a deterrent enough. That's why gun-free zones, isn't it shocking how all these things keep happening in gun-free zones? Because a gun-free zone is simply an invitation for someone to come in with a gun. So that's a hard one as well. If you're too crazy to own a gun, you're too crazy to vote. There you go. Yeah. And that's actually part of that, Ed. Felons can't vote either. Felons can't own guns. Felons can't vote in the United States. Of course, messed up folks who do anything, go to a ghetto, find at least 3 ways to get a makeshift rifle. Yep. Look at the crazy people we're voting for. Yep. Well, it's a good thing some of these guys don't have guns. Okay, Tom, what models of pistols do you have? You don't need to go into detail, just curious. Actually, I pulled them over here as in case I wanted to do any samples. I have a minor. I have an LC9, which is a 9mm handgun from Ruger, and I have a C9, which is a high point, which is an 8-10 round clip plus 1, of course. So if I get into any of that, then I'll show you what those are, but it depends on how far I get through my list, etc., etc. Don't buy guns from a gun store due to registration. I buy 80% kits and just build my own. Which also are regulated, make note. Okay, let's see. Yeesh. Tons of comments. Too many. Okay, if I had a 300 rum, I would die of alcohol poisoning. It's Remington. 300 Remington Ultra Mag. That thing takes a serious amount of powder. I just preferred a vehicle-mounted M250 caliber machine gun personally. There you go. Advertising RX drugs is more damaging to society than guns ever will be. I agree, Pete. Advertising drugs to society is very damaging to us. Did you hear about the recent school shooter who ended up just killing himself in the bathroom? I heard about it, but I did not actually read any of the story. Well, it's a drill press and a Dremel and a license, actually. You do need a license to manufacture firearms. You are seriously breaking the law if you don't. A friend of mine actually does some of those, which he actually is a subsidiary under a guy with the license. So. Going to vote for Oprah Winfrey in 2020, aren't you? According to Oprah Winfrey is not going to run because Oprah Winfrey knows that she's not cut out for the job. afraid with all of the fear with firearms, people will let their emotions take our rights back when 9/11 happened. Yeah, and Isaiah, that is the heart of what's behind the conspiracy theories about it. Are all these shootings being orchestrated to raise cause for banning guns? Okay, and that's unfortunate. I think it's happening in the Florida case. Now, I think that the Florida legislator should have talked about it. I don't think they should have just tabled it entirely. Out of respect for the people that were there just involved in a shooting earlier that week, you talk about it. But I think great talking points would be, we have this law and this law and this law and this law and this law, and the school and the police and the FBI failed to act on the laws we have. We don't need to add more laws when we have adequate laws. We need to follow the laws that we have. That's kind of the thing. But again, it's raising those issues again. Because have you noticed every single month to the T we have had, every single month to the T we have had some type of mass shooting. That is conspiracy theory material, people. I'm not going there. I don't think that's necessarily the case that's happening. I personally, particularly as a Christian, I believe that our world is just decaying to the point where more and more and more people, what happens is the lunatic fringe moves, and right now the lunatic fringe of 10 years ago is now mainstream of now, and that's just like, go crazy, and the whole world's just going mass crazy. I think that's what's happening. So does that still justify banning guns? Absolutely not, because there's still plenty of good people with guns. If you got a bad guy with a gun running around, you need a good guy with a gun to stop it. Ever notice that the police show up with guns? Yeah. And a reality is, I think I had it down here somewhere. Police response is slow. Where I live here, I am just outside the town limits. We do not have, in fact, the nearest actual active city police we have is still 5 miles down the road. The only place with actual police jurisdiction here is the sheriff. And of course the state police, because they have jurisdiction everywhere in the state. But you know where the nearest state police office is? I think that's 30 miles away in Phillipsburg. I'm pretty sure that's the case. All right. As far as the sheriff, yeah, they're 20 miles away in Bellefonte, the other way. And I don't often see sheriffs roaming the area just patrolling. If there were a mass shooting area that break out in my apartment complex with all of these kids and whatever else, I'd be on the front line shooting at the shooter to save the lives of my neighbors. It would take the police 15 minutes to get here. We cannot disarm ourselves and rely on the police to show up with their handguns. But I don't want them necessarily have all the excess stuff as well. I'm okay with it to a degree, only to the degree that we as well are allowed. I don't think the police should have any more laws, except for maybe a few things, like maybe the police should be able to carry the into the government buildings and into the schools and into the banks like we can't. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with leaving my gun in the car when I go to the post office or the bank. I'm okay with that. If I'm going into school, I don't bring the gun. All right? I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with a police officer doing that. But to tell me I can't carry a gun while I'm going out doing my errands, I don't know what psychos are out on my street. And that's the reality. Okay, metal 3D printers are getting smaller. Yeah. Tom, that video clip looked very surprised as well. Sandy Hook was fake. Look deeper into it. I've looked into it enough. Okay, all you have to do is go to a gun show to get a gun, no problem. Steve Anderson, thank you for talking the left talking points. That is not correct. You still, anywhere in the United States, you still have to have a background check. There is no little loophole. To buy a gun at a gun show, you still have to go through a gun dealer. It's the same way as a private sale. If I want to take one of my guns and sell it, I have to do it through a gun shop. I have to have a back door. That is an absolute farce. You have to have the background check even at a gun show. Okay, it doesn't really matter whether government did 9/11 intentionally or not. It allowed to happen by their incompetence. Yeah, I'm not going to argue that one as much. Greetings, Anna Rita. How are you? Dean, greetings. I've watched a lot of these documentaries. I've seen documentaries on this. I've seen the 9/11 truthers, and yeah, I can develop a documentary to tear apart anything. But the preponderance of the evidence is different things. The reality is, unfortunately, a lot of the evidence has been destroyed. But the evidence being destroyed, does that mean it never happened? No. I would have to see something a whole lot more compelling than a conspiracy theorist's documentary about Sandy Hook. Hands down. If 9/11 happened in Shanghai, 100% of Americans would believe the Chinese government was involved in the attack. Managed to get my sister on Linux Mint. Mom has Windows 7 laptop. Nice. Doesn't matter if you take away guns because psychopaths will be psychopaths. Yes, absolutely. The official hat of Linux users. Yes, it is. It's my tinfoil fedora. Having rules and laws is good, but it needs to be changed if situations keep happening so that they keep the same knowing is not working. Okay, but should teachers own guns? Yeah. That is a hard one. The question is, if it is that easy to get a gun with the black market, a disabled person will always find a way to get a gun. So how can you prevent him from getting one? Is there a solution? No, there's not. There is not a solution to someone being prevented. Like a criminal will buy a gun. It doesn't matter if it's illegal or not. So the best defense against the criminal with a gun is the good guy with a gun. And that's why we cannot take away the law-abiding citizen's right to own a gun. That's the thing. Think about getting a Windows phone. Don't do it, man. Don't do it. I had a Windows phone before. It's crazy. I've carried, conceal, and usually carry. Yep. Dark occultists are manipulating society. All right. Yes, my pretties. Okay. The real question is how and why an expelled student was able to walk back in with a gun. Yes. Yes, there were too many issues in this hand. Way too many issues. Create the monster to sell the solution. Yep. And that, Grant, the perfect point. People talk about legislating more when they don't even fully enforce the laws we already have. That is the core of the problem. You can carry and conceal without a permit in a lot of states. No, actually, Ed, not a lot that I know of. You can open carry in most states without a permit. Let me look up the states list here real quick. See if I can find it. Okay, I don't want to see your video. I want to see what it is right now. Things like loading me an animated GIF, showing me the progression of how it's changed over the years. I don't care. I want to see what is it right now, because this stuff changes a lot. No, I don't want your video to play either. Okay, so no, there's actually more than there were. These always are changing. Okay, so as of right now, according to Wikipedia, the states that are unrestricted, where you can carry a handgun concealed without a license, unrestricted: Alaska, Arizona, Idaho, 21 or over, Kansas, Maine with a duty to inform, Mississippi only if carried in a belt or shoulder holster, sheath, purse, handbag, etc., etc. Missouri, Montana outside city limits, New Hampshire, New Mexico unloaded. Let's leave it at home then. North Dakota, residents only, duty to inform. Oklahoma with ID. Yeah, these changed a lot in the last couple years. Vermont, West Virginia, and Wyoming residents only. Those are the ones where it is where you do not necessarily have to have a permit. Let's see. No issue states. California in some places. Some of these say no issue. Okay, so here's a little thing. There's may issue and there's shall issue. So the difference in the law in this is a shall issue state is unless you have something on your record that suggests that carrying a gun is bad. Let me show you this chart rather than me just reading it. That way you guys can see what I'm looking at. A may issue state and a shall issue state. A shall issue state, if you apply, unless you have something in your history that prevents you from having a gun, they must issue you the permit. And this is a carry conceal permit. A may issue state doesn't necessarily have to give you a permit. You apply and they decide if they want you to have it or not. And it's apparently a little crazy. So California, really in practice, they generally don't issue permits. They are may issue. Connecticut, Delaware are may issue. Hawaii is may issue, but they don't issue in practice. Maryland is don't issue in practice. Massachusetts is don't issue in practice. New Jersey, notice that all of the may issue in general are they don't. Okay, Rhode Island has Attorney General issued permits. So that is those, and then there are non-resident permits available. Now, the next one you want to pay attention to is the reciprocity. So what this means is the states that have reciprocity, if I have a carry permit here in Pennsylvania, I can carry concealed in these other states. And so, of course, you'll see California's a no. They don't agree with anybody. DC's a no. You know, you can see the ones that are no's. So that is kind of a little bit about those. So, yeah, Ed, thank you for alerting me to that. Those have changed a ton since I've looked at them last. Middle of Chicago, yeah. Chicago has, like, Illinois itself has the craziest gun laws. If you're transporting a gun across the state, it has to be disassembled and the ammo locked in a separate lockbox from the gun with a different lock. Does Kitty have a tinfoil hat too? Yes, he does. Homestead hippies shoot back. Yes, they do. Our public and many subsidized schools, not only violent children can go back freely, they get unprotected and pass everything even if they fail the exams. Yep. That's sad. That's part of the problem. If you own a gun, we would own a gun legally because it would take the police 30 minutes to get here, so we should protect ourselves as in self-defense. Yep. And that's the thing, you know. In fact, it kind of reminds me of a joke. I hope this isn't too off color. So there's this guy, and he hears a noise out of his woodshed out back. And so he calls the police. And he says, hey, I hear some noise. I think someone's in my woodshed out back. He's like, well, we don't have any police to send you right now. That's all right. So he hangs up the phone. Calls back, and he still hears the noise. Guy's still out there. He's actually stealing stuff. He calls the police back. Hey, I've confirmed somebody's back there, and they are actually stealing stuff. Can you come and stop him? Police like, well, we don't have anything here, so, just lock yourself in your house and take an account of what's missing in the morning, and we'll file a police report in the morning. So the guy hangs up. Calls back 5 minutes later. I shot the guy in the shed. They're like, we'll be right on over. He says, I thought you didn't have anyone to send. Okay. Police, we cannot rely on police. If your life is in danger, you cannot wait for the police to get there. This is like, let's flip this around for a moment. You have just fallen down the steps. You have a massive concussion and blood is gushing out of your head. Is it better to get to the hospital now, or is it better to wait for the ambulance? If you live 30 miles out, they're going to tell you, get the guy into a car and start driving as fast as you can to the hospital. And the ambulance might meet you along the way. Why is it any different if a person has broken into my house and intending to do harm? I don't want to wait for the police to get here. I'd rather have the ability to defend myself. And that's kind of what we're talking about. And that's why this is such a hard conversation, is because there's too many little things. I prefer open carry, let them know for sure. The only downside, though, Dean, is that people tend to get nervous when they start seeing a gun. I'd rather conceal carry because it means that there's less nervous people around me. Yes, Adam Lanza was mentally ill. He tried to get a gun, but did not pass the background check, so he took his parents' gun. And I guess that's another thing. If you have mentally disabled people in your life, if you have guns at all, you make absolute certain that they are completely locked. It's the same thing. If you have kids in your house, if I have kids in the house, I am liable if they get a hold of that gun. I got to make sure they're locked up. And they are. I keep my guns locked up in safes. Now, they're safes with quick entry methods, but they are still safes nevertheless. Guns don't get out of bed and walk themselves to its operator. No, they don't. But some operators sleep with their guns. It's not more guns equals more violence. Montana's around number 3 in gun ownership, and 3 out of 5 people own a gun. Montana's number 49th in gun violence. Yep. Absolutely. And that's that's the thing, is all of the states that have a lot of open gun laws, like just very liberal gun, or just a lot of armed citizens, crime rates are much lower in those places. In the states where there's a big differences, like Pennsylvania, where we have inner cities with harsh gun laws and out in the sticks with no gun laws, there's no violent crime out in the sticks. Now, some people would argue, is it less people or whatever else? But at the same time, do we want to, do we want to take that risk? So, of course, all that makes me, reminds me of, let's see, is it this sign? I'm looking for a sign here. That's one of them, but there's a better one. Oh, come on, man. Where are you at, Mr. Sign? Where are you at? I will note that this is absolutely a joke. This is not true, but it is a funny thing. We'll lighten up the little bit of humor here. Let's see. But of course, there's this sign here. Welcome, Greenleaf, Idaho. This is not a gun-free zone. Okay. Of course, this one here, this was debunked on Snopes. But welcome to Idaho. Attention, criminals and terrorists. 1,700 Idaho, or excuse, yes, 170,000 Idaho residents have a permit to legally carry concealed weapons. About 60% of the rest of the population is armed, but have not bothered to purchase the license, as it's not a requirement to carry a firearm. Understand a substantial portion of the population is armed and prepared to defend themselves and others against acts of criminal violence. You have been warned. However, California, New York, and Illinois have disarmed their citizens for your convenience. So, of course, Snopes does indeed declare that is false. I'm not sure I believe Snopes as much anymore, but let's see. Let's see. At least 2 Photoshop versions on the internet. First one warns many of them. Let's see. Okay, both of those are fake. The original photo is posted to Flickr. Yep, so other people have done those. So yeah, I mean, just pointing out that those indeed are known to be fakes, but they're funny anyway. Let's see. Live in rural acreage. I prefer to handle my own protection than call the police. Criminals would be stupid to come after me because it will be them who will need the help. Yes. See the cops pull up, you immediately take out the magazine, lay the weapon on the ground, and step back with your hands up. Absolutely. And this is the thing. There's a lot of people want to sit there and stand on the rights. I have the right. You know, it's like, no. If the police are on scene, you give them the control. It doesn't matter if you're the innocent guy or not. They don't know who's the innocent guy. They don't know who's the bad guy. Their job is to handcuff everyone they perceive as a threat and then unhandcuff people as they demonstrate they're not the threat. So yes, if you happen to be in a case where you got a gun, so I got a gun right here, right? You happen to be in a case where you got a gun. If the police show up, take it out, set it before you, take a few steps back, put your hands on the back of your head, and then listen for their instructions. That is what you do. Okay? Because once the police are on the scene, they are now in control of the situation. You relinquish all control immediately unless they tell you otherwise. If they get there and the guy's still shooting, the police is like, get over here behind this and put that clip back on that gun and fire when ready, then you do it. But when the police show up on the scene, you have to give them all the control. And if they want to handcuff you, you let them handcuff you. If they want to talk to you. Now, there's some things about this. You don't talk a whole lot to the police. But at the same time, you want to answer their basic questions. You want to give them the control. You want to submit and let them know that you're not the problem. Okay? So as long as we have that type of training in place, that's something that we need to consider. Okay, I think we should have more guards in schools and metal detectors in bars and windows. Might make it look like a prison. Yeah, okay. That's a compromise I would take. I'm not sure I would necessarily be happy at a school like that. You guys that are in high school or middle school, I still see some of you guys on here. What do you think about that? Would you like to go to a school with a lot of armed guards, metal detectors, and bars on the windows? Would that make you feel safer or would that make you feel like a prisoner? I mean, you're already a prisoner anyway. May as well make it look genuine. But what are your thoughts? Well, I mean, Ed, felons are not supposed to cast votes in most states, but, you know, illegal immigrants aren't supposed to either. You know. Let's see. A veteran that works as a janitor concealed carries with the only one knowing is the carrier and the principal. I like that plan, Grant. That's a great plan. Shotgun, you can't miss. Blow a big hole enough to pitch a dog through. Yeah, the problem is that even if you hit your target, you also miss your target and hit whoever's behind your target and do a ton of damage to the structures. That's why a shotgun is not the best self-defense weapon. I mean, it's effective, but it is not the best self-defense weapon. It is too inaccurate. It is too imprecise. It is too much scatter, and it knocks you off the base. I can take my, like, particularly I have the C9. This gun here is a very accurate gun. 20 yards, I can hit dead center on a target on this, multiple rounds, per second. I mean, boom, 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 boom. I can do that. Absolutely. All right. Because this gun has virtually no kickback. This gun has enough kickback that I have to re-aim. This one, I don't have to re-aim. A shotgun, it's going to throw you seriously off your aim. Now, the good thing with the shotgun is you don't need to aim more than once usually, but you also hit what's behind you. And that's the danger of the shotgun. Designated by the same person who designated the prison, and he cropped the design. So my school was designed like a prison. Oh, boy. Ray guns that trap plasma using microwave radiation conceptualized as tar.zip. Or tar.gz, yeah. Is it me or is YouTube nuts today? The watch count and thumbs down count is up and not consistent. Watch count, I concur. Like, I have one particular video in my system. Where's my mouse at? That it's an older video and it's logged over 200 hits today. Let's see what it's at. Like 200 hits an hour today. Things had like 4,000 views today. I didn't check if what the view count's been doing though. Go analytics. Real timies. Oh, it's dropped to 100 views per hour. But in the last 48 hours, that one video, the Extern OS video's seen 4,200 views. I've been averaging 200 views an hour for the last most of the day. You see what the thumbs down count looks like on it, though. I haven't seen a ton of thumbs down counts, but I haven't been looking either. Well, that video's got 233 thumbs downs and 416 thumbs ups, which is hilarious because the developer of the OS actually told me it's the best review he's seen of the thing. That's kind of funny. But yeah, I've noticed a lot of extra view counts. Conservative Gun Linux Trust channel. That's right. I'm super offensive too, you know. WA state, you don't need a license to make a personal firearm if it's not a mass produced for sale. Personal custom firearms are legal to produce, but you have to keep what you make. Yes. Chile, most people who do know who are the psychos, have to interact with them and try and accuse them discreetly or get in trouble. Yeah, they made drugs completely illegal. Did that take care of the problem? Nope. Country is virtually a gun-free zone, but in several regions the community agrees to unsee a justified incident, mostly in small towns. Hey, Linux Daily, it's going pretty good. Found $50 Windows phone to replace my 3S. Someone took it, threw it on the ground, and it broke it. Oh, I'm sorry, man. Someone actually broke your phone? I would prosecute that dude. Honestly. Dude, I mean, if a guy actually broke your phone, you sue him for the price of the replacement phone. Absolutely. How can someone... I get pissed off at bullies. But you know what? It ain't worth going and hurting them. Worth dragging them into court. If court doesn't listen, go talk to the media. The media will straighten the school up. That's what the media does. It's very unfortunate, but that's kind of what has to happen. Maybe all of us should all email Pizza's school and say, hey, why are you letting your bullies break your kids' phones? That might cause a response. Thought this was tinfoil hat time. You just can't dip your feet into the rabbit hole. It is tinfoil hat time, but again, tinfoil hat time is where I take a reality truth matter of things. Unless you can show me solid, real facts that are not conspiracy theory documentaries, I've looked over the stuff when it was first coming out. I was watching it very closely. I've formulated my opinions. And I'm not going to dwell on a shooting that happened a few years back. There's a lot of other things that we can be talking with. Now, I'll come to Boston a few years starting in the summer for work. In France, I would never buy a firearm. US, I think I would buy one. Yeah, absolutely. Takes to consider CHL a generic carry license. Nearest Walmart's 40 minutes away. Wow, it's usually on. Yeah, they are. Yeah, Straight Talks aren't bad, but they're kind of crappy phones. I actually have a Straight Talk phone that I don't activate for just like when I'm running, exercising, GPSing. You know, that way it's just a phone, but it's not tied back to me. But I can log my runs, GPS my walks, and listen to stuff. Very nice MP3 players. Smartphones are. You know. Police not there to protect you. They're there to arrest and instigate. The reports a lot of paperwork. Sadly, Wyoming is changing its castle doctrine, or it's up for change in the Senate. I have a sneaky suspicion it's not going to change. Absolutely not. I have a lot of connections in Wyoming. I don't think it's going to change. Or if it does, it's going to cause a sharp increase in crime. They'll realize that was a bad idea. Hope and pray that I never have to shoot someone in self-defense, but if I have to choose between a criminal's life or the lives of my wives and sons, yep, absolutely. That's it. Now, European, the whole gun debate is strange. The gun law here is very strict. You might get a permit for a shotgun or a rifle if you hunt, but they do check. Yep. Part of Tennessee's carry permit class and certification is instruction in child safety, which is how to store it. That's good. I'm very glad to see that. What about being this far? It could have been very logical, but our authorities tend to copy your guys' mistakes. Americans are very fortunate to have the Second Amendment. In the UK, you can't sneeze on an invader without fear of being prosecuted for willingly infecting another person, infringing on their human rights. Yeah, I know. Isn't that kind of crazy? Kitty, what's your stance on this? Kitty? Does Kitty have a stance? Is Kitty pro-gun? All right. If someone's stealing my house, I don't think I will shoot him if my life is not in danger. The material would be stolen or not worth the years of trials, at least not in France. Yeah. And that's sad that you have to give up your car rather than, I don't have a car now. Well, so it's up to you to replace your car now. Well, if I just had a gun and could shoot the guy and save my car, in Texas, that's perfectly legal. Someone tries to steal your car. Oh, it's legal. Shoot them. Oh, yeah. Kitty, kitty. Kitty, kitty. Kitty's happy, kitty. All right. Neighbor had to put his dog down a couple years ago after it bit a burglar requiring stitches. Yeah, that's crazy. How does armed guards and metal detectors promote learning? I don't know. But it definitely helps with the security. I'll agree to that. It's hard to legally get a firearm in Boston. Yes. Very easy to illegally get a firearm in Boston. But okay. How is there in the UK you dare to protect your family from this burglar? Now he's hurt and has bruises, and you will be punished for defending your property. Yeah, and the lives of your family. Yeah. Tom, can you show real guns on YouTube? Yes, you can show real guns on YouTube. I might get demonetized, but you know. A shotgun, not for in the house, outside of the intruder is breaking into your shed. Yeah, there you go. Good thing I don't live in the UK. That's why I live in a rural area to protect myself and not go to jail. I have a vast wilderness in the backyard criminals will end up missing. Think if a firearm is shown on YouTube, if it's used correctly and it's informational, it's okay. Yes. I have 2 fluffy killing machines. This is one of them. Except you're trying to get on the desk. You have to stay off the desk. Front paws on the desk only. Only front paws on the desk. Only front paws on the desk. Only front paws on the desk. Oh, boy. Great protector with balls as he carries the guns. Yep. And that's why you carry this one, because this one fits about the palm of your hand, but it's a 9mm. This one, more accurate, but definitely harder to conceal. Total wireless, but the representative disconnected my line in the middle of the porting process when I switched to Verizon. Wow. You heard it first. Tom is connected. I'm connected? To what? If he defends me sometimes, 7th period is my favorite class because he's there. There you go. A few years, this phone would have been a collector and expensive. Yeah, suit him up, man. That's what I'd do. If he actually broke your phone and you have witnesses, first you bring it to the school. I mean, it happened at school. If the school doesn't do anything about it, you bring a lawsuit against the kid and the school. Put them together as joint and severally liable. You will definitely get your money, and you're going to cause a stink in the community, and then the community might actually look into the bullying. You take a 7th grader and put them on the news saying how you're bullied at school, they're breaking your property at school grounds, and the school doesn't do anything. I promise your school is going to change around because the news is going to be blasting them. Get some Howard Stern-like guy over there bashing them around a little bit, and they'll actually change their mind. And trying to deal with it with the school, bring those up joint and several. The school's liable to pay for it if the kid can't. I mean that's unfortunate, but that's unfortunate what we have to do. Sad part here is only criminals have the guns. They don't care if it's illegal. Yep. Sorry for my very bad English. I'm still learning. Hey, no problem, man. I didn't see bad English at all. Okay. Folk in rural areas can still get shotguns, but they're heavily restricted as it's a long butt process to get one. In a city, you have no chance. Yep. How much do guns cost? Is it expensive? This gun here is actually a very cheap gun. It's only like $200. It's a high point, not considered a particularly good gun. It's actually, though, the most accurate one that I have and the easiest to use because it has virtually no kickback. Because this, the barrel up here is a solid piece of heavy steel. And as the ammo, as the bullet, the explosion fires it, it cocks it back, and this takes all of the force. And so the gun, if you've ever played like Black Ops, this gun's like having a reflex scope. You know, it's just like very keeps the system there. This is a Ruger, and Rugers are more expensive guns. A lot better. I can actually field strip this one without any tools. So I just need to slide out the pin. Basically, pin pops out like this. Top comes off the bottom. Then I have this part here. Oh, here's your spring pin. And this is why the gun is very inaccurate, is this is only about an inch, inch and a half, I guess, of firing space. So a round would just go right into here, and it sits right in here. But this one is extremely, this one here is, I think this one's closer to like a $300 or $400 gun. A little bit more expensive. By all means, it's not like the most expensive out there. It's just, it's expensive enough. And then you just put everything back together like that, and then drop the pin back in. And then there is a pin lock, and there is a lock-open lock. So you can lock it open like that. So, depends on the type of gun you want. Those ones are fairly cheap. Any plans on doing tutorials for Blender? After I consistently learn Blender and can do things in Blender without having to consult tutorials myself, I'll think about it. In other words, no time soon. He got detention for a week. Well, good. If he got detention for a week, then you bring a lawsuit against him for the replacement cost of the phone. And then if he got detention for the week, the school will help and back him up. But detention is not enough if he breaks a smartphone. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you don't want your friend to beat him up. Don't do that. No, kitty. Don't play with the bullet. Kitty's trying to play with the bullet. Here. This is much safer to play with. Play with that. Okay. I think I have one final point I want to talk about on this one. All right. So my one final point on this is that why is it, like, if you look into the stats, like, literally do some homework and do some research, far more people die from in inner Chicago, like, every month than in shootings in an entire year. Frankly, inside a week in inner Chicago, you might have more deaths. A whole lot more people are stabbed. The number 2 cause of death is drownings in swimming pools in Florida. Or no, I'm sorry, that is the number 1 cause of deaths, is swimming pools in Florida. And hundreds more people were killed by swimming pools in Florida than by any form of guns. But why is it? Why is it that a mass shooting brings so much attention? It has to do with the shock value of it, okay? So when you have the shock value of a shooting, you end up with a whole lot of people like, oh, we gotta stop the guns. But it's like a plane crash. Okay? This is like a plane crash. It is extremely rare. It makes a lot of news when it happens. It kills a fair amount of people when it happens. But by all means, it's not like, just because there's a plane crash doesn't mean we ban airplanes. A school shooting is much the same way. Tons and tons and tons more deaths occur many other ways. Do you know, for example, how many airplanes there happen to be? I've been tracking airplanes because a friend of mine took a trip overseas, and so I was monitoring the airplanes. So here is an actual live airplane monitor. I dare say that is a lot of airplanes. And they're all little moving around. You'll see the airplanes moving around a little bit. When does one crash? Every few years? Maybe? It causes a lot of news. It causes a lot of tragedy. It's horrible. It's sad. And that's what a school shooting is like, or any mass shooting is like. It's extremely rare. Now, it's becoming more common, for sure. I agree. But is it becoming common enough that we strip away the Americans' rights, law-abiding Americans' rights, for the handsake of a few, and we're talking less than a dozen criminals? I wager the answer is no. Things could have been done different in Florida. It wasn't a breakdown of the law. It was a breakdown of the reporting that was supposed to make the law work. That's the thing we need to keep in mind. We need to keep that stuff in mind. It causes a lot of news. We ought not let it strip away our rights as Americans. Good guys with guns are what is needed when bad guys have them. And by making guns illegal, you are not going to stop any bad guys from getting guns. They already don't care about the laws. That's my final point on this. Let's go ahead and wrap up with some comments and then some kitty food. For 1,000 murders a month in Florida, but they are mostly black and Hispanic, so the media doesn't care. There you go. I mean, that's true. That's true. Why do we not care about the black people getting shot up, but we do care about the white people getting shot up? That's a problem. I agree. Absolutely. Not per year, per month. Yes, I said per year because it was the longer time frame, and I don't have the actual stats in front of me. So if you know the stats, I agree. Go with them. A day we get at least 2 weeks away, usually a month for doing it. And if you did not behave, you simply got cut. Yeah. Greetings, Maverick. How are ya? We're just wrapping up. Missed everything. It sounds like we mostly agree. It depends. All right. Well, we'll call for last comments, and let's go ahead and get the kitty his due. Yep, this is the time you're allowed on the desk, kitty. Oh, right there. Oh, there you go. Oh, this camera up here. This camera up here. There you go. Oh, let's do one more like that. That was a good shot. Yeah. Are the finger looking good? Yeah. Yeah. All right, kitty. Well, hey, Dr. Rob, at least you made it in time for the kitty. From your final statements, that's basically what I've said. Yes, the furry helper. Yay, the furry helper. Want to say bye to the peoples? Bye-bye, peoples. All right. Well, once again, if you'd like to help support Switch to Linux, you can check out switchtolinux.com/support. Also, I have these awesome mouse pads. Shop.switchtolinux.com. There's some t-shirts and coffee mugs and other fun stuff right there as well. All right. So thanks for hanging out, guys, and we will catch you later.